picking places where you spend your time. Ain't no place I'd rather go. You're a funny little critter and I love you so, man. I wanna take a ride in the wheelbarrow in your mind. I come and sit down with me in a rocking chair. Coffee pot is nice and hot. We can sit in our underwear.
Hello everybody, welcome to the channel, and as you can see I am not in front of the camera this time. We're on the desktop here in Windows 10, and we're going to talk about the new update for Lightroom Classic so that you can check out the Denoise AI that it has built in. We'll call it quote free because it is still part of a subscription service, but you don't have to buy a third-party plugin to do it anymore. Now there is a few negatives to the built-in denoise feature here in Lightroom Classic. The first one is it only works with RAW files, and it only works with single RAW files. So if you click this first one, it is, as you can see, a panoramic image. It's multiple images stitched together to make a wider image. But as you can see, it's also grayed out for denoise, so that's not a possibility. So yeah, it only works with single shot raw images for now, and it does not work with JPEGs or anything else that's not a RAW. To make sure you have the most recent updated version of it, you have to go up here on Windows, and also there's a version of it on Mac. You click Help, you go down to Updates, it brings up your Creative Cloud here, and it'll show that you have an update available right here if you need it. And if it doesn't show anything, you can click Check for Updates. And once you have it done, it'll say this update introduces Denoise AI powered noise reduction, which is currently what we're talking about in this video. So we have about 9 images here to play through and mess around with to see how it works. On my MacBook Air is a 2020 M1. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes per image. Now if you only have a couple images to go through, it's really not a big deal. So if you have a big backlog of a lot of pictures that you want to go through and denoise, doing denoise on a Mac might not be the right answer. So here we are on a Windows 10 desktop. It is powered by a GeForce GTX 1080 Superclock. It is 64 gigs of DDR4 and is a Ryzen 3700X. So it's not too bad. Probably the only weak link is the graphics card for the most part. I believe this was on a D500. And it's not a terrible crop, as you can see. And we're at 4000 ISO. So when we zoom in here, it looks pretty gross. So we're going to scroll down, find the denoise function, click that, let it load up and pop up, and it'll give us an estimate of how long it will take. So you can see in this window here, it shows you the before and after. It's actually kind of amazing, to be honest. It works really good. And if you want a comparison video between Lightroom Denoise AI Update, DxO Pure Raw 3, and Topaz AI, I have another video. We'll put a little link up top here, so you can check that out after this if you're interested. So right here it says estimated time 1 minute, and you can also scroll this back and forth, so you can change how much you want it to denoise. Personally, for the most part, I usually stick to about 50 to 60, give or take. One of the negatives about this, though, is once you denoise an image, you cannot do the super resolution that's built in, the enhance feature down here. You can't do that once you denoise it, and if you do this first, you still can't denoise it. So it's one or the other, and the only way to really get around that is to export it as a JPEG once you're done, bring it back into Lightroom, and then do the super resolution on it. So we'll just click enhance and it'll do its mojo. So now it's been spit out and it automatically stacks it on top of each other, which is super nice. And you can see naming of the file. It shows you the enhanced noise reduction -2 DNG, and we can see a before and after. Definitely brings out some more details that was not there before. Fix some colors. The goose in the back doesn't really matter, it wasn't the one in focus anyways. But the cool thing about this is it automatically makes it a RAW file, so you can still edit it to your heart's content like you would any other RAW file. And I definitely think it does a pretty nice job. It does tend to trade punches with DxO Pure Raw 3, but as mentioned, you can see that in another video. So this is a little more harsh of a test. So here's a final image of these herons on their rookery. It's definitely an improvement to say the least, but I mean, you can't really polish a turd too hard, can you? But for social media, it's definitely an improvement for posting like Instagram, which would really hide any of the details that wasn't there to begin with. So we'll do a little bit of action here. This is cool. I've always liked taking pictures at rodeos. This was on D500, ISO 12,800. I believe this was on my 150-600 Sigma. So let's see what it can do on this real quick. Looks like it's going to be decent. Oh my, that final image that got spit out, that looks so clean compared to how it was before. Look at that, that's like night and day. That's 12,000 ISO on a D500. That's just kind of mind-blowing there. Okay, so this was also on a D500, I believe. This was on a Tamron 24-70 2.8 G2. That was actually one of the first videos I ever made for a gear lens review. So if you want to check that out, we'll put a little pop-up up there. It's a little rough around the edges. So yeah, ISO 2000, 68 millimeters, f2.8, 1/125th of a second. I thought it was pretty cool how you can get the torque on the tires showing there. I need to go back and reshoot some of these with the better gear that I have now. This was probably 5 years ago. Okay, here's the final. I really like how the Denoise in Lightroom didn't, like, you know, mistake all this flinging mud and dirt for noise. That worked out really nice. Okay, so this was on a Z7 II. I'm pretty sure this was like the first day that I had that camera a couple of years ago. And we had this little bird here, and this is 22,800. I must have been super excited to get this camera out to, like, you know, take a picture of something, because that's a bit extreme. So the final image here, this was again 22,800 ISO. Yeah, before and after. Just insanity for 22,000 ISO. Granted, it is like a 45 megapixel image, so it does have some detail buried in that noise, but pretty sweet. Okay, so we have an F35 going transonic. Now this was shot at only ISO 125, so this is like not the usual rule you'll follow. Whenever you push and move the file around a lot, you're going to end up causing a lot of extra noise in your image. So we're going to denoise this as well and see what we get. So real quick, we're going to look at Task Manager while that's running, so you can see what the GPU load looks like. CPU is still kind of hanging out there, kind of low, 10%. Memory, I think it might be because I'm also recording on the screen, but we're at about 26 gigs of RAM used. So pretty much to be expected. So we got the before and after reference here. Definitely some cleanup on the fuselage. Sharper wing edges. Yeah, definitely brought some detail back. Kind of evened out the vapor trails. So here we have a macaw. This was the Pittsburgh Aviary. This was probably on the Z7 II. Yeah, Z7 II. And you can see there's a lot of detail on his beak. From scratching at stuff, eating. A lot of fine feather detail even at ISO 4000, but it is pretty close to a flagship camera. So let's hit that up. And also, every one of these, I like to make sure that I have the right lens profile picked ahead of time. I don't know if that makes a big difference in the long run for denoise, but that's just what I like to do. Might not be a huge difference on this one because it's got a lot of detail anyways at ISO 4000, but let's check it. Okay, so the final image definitely kept some of the detail on the feathers. Didn't really make it into mush. The beak looks amazing. Insane details on there. And just for reference, the Z7 II file definitely took longer than a D500 file. Maybe an extra 15 seconds, so a little over a minute. And then we will have our before and after comparison real quick. And some people might complain that I'm not like changing the slider on the denoise section, but I mean, I just leave it at like 60 the entire time, and it works perfectly well for what I shoot. Your mileage may vary, but as you can see, it works really nice. Okay, so this is the last image here we're gonna do. This is a green heron. This was shot on a D3400 ISO 1600 from the kayak. Even the 1600 on a crop body, it's very noisy. So here's the before and after on this green heron. Really, the details look similar, but there's way less noise in the whole image. Now this was an entry-level camera. You can get them used for probably $250 now. It's probably, what's that, 6 years old now? Almost 7. Still a very solid camera for the price though. Just depends what lens you put on it. So here at the end of the video, we're just doing a 2-second recap on this. The negatives that I've come across so far is it only accepts RAW files. You cannot do an enhance on the DNG when you're done, so you can't just get a larger resolution from a heavy crop image out of it, so that's kind of crappy. And you can only do one or the other, so that's kind of a negative. That's why I like using DxO Pure Raw 3. You can pretty much use those files any way you want. You can denoise a file and then take that file and then super resolution it in Lightroom, and you have no problem. For a wildlife photographer where everything is so far away all the time and you have to do a lot of cropping, it's super useful, and it works really nice in macro photography as well. So in the future, stay tuned for a DxO Pure Raw 3 review. If you have any questions or concerns about the denoise here, or if I missed something, please drop a line down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. And happy clicking out there. I wish you the best of luck. You're going to need it.